Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition. And today we are going to talk about what happens if ascension goes too fast. What happens when the walls start to come down between multidimensionality and our linear human thinking brain? What happens? Now, I'm going to go to some extremes here just for you guys to get more of a feel for when we start pulling things apart in the human world to look at what's really going on. And it's not what our human brain says it is. There's more there. Now, that doesn't mean it's not true if you're living in a human reality. If you're living from a human aspect, if you're living in those beliefs, then it is going to ring true. It's going to make sense because that's how we were taught. That's what the science says, air quote science, the human science says. So we're going to kind of pull through something today, and I know it might feel a little weird to talk about it, but we're going to do it. So I just watched season 4 of You, and in there they did some pretty interesting things, and if you haven't seen it, this is going to spoil it for you, so if you're going to watch it, you might want to watch this video another time. But one of the things they talked about was someone who had a delusion of knowing someone they didn't know. Like this was a famous person and this person thought they knew them, right? So it was this big deal in the show. So we're going to break that down. So what happens when this happens? So we can also go into, multiple personality disorders. We can start dipping into a lot of this human mental health stuff and what's really starting to go on here. And it's not what the human world thinks. So when we're talking about knowing people, building up a whole fantasy of knowing a person you don't know. And I've had this happen to me where I've had people pretend's not the word I want to use, but I don't want to end this video, so I'm not going to start over. Believe that they knew me or we had a relationship, but I'd never met them. And this probably happens quite a bit to people. And this can be confusing. But it's not that it's not true. And this is the part that can always kind of throw people. When you start to be able to see multidimensionality and you start to be able to see the dream world, you start to be able to see all the things you're doing, all the things your other selves are doing, the relationships you have in these other realms with people that in this reality you don't know. But in other realities, you have maybe a very intimate, sacred connection with these people. I know I see that a lot in my dream state. There's a lot of people that I have relationships with, not in this physical reality, but in other realities. And some people I will see from time to time, but they don't know me. But I have this whole reality that I've seen in other realms with them. But in this reality, we don't have that. In this reality, we might not know each other at all, which is true for some of them, or we might know each other just like a teeny, very minimal, superficial way, I guess is the way, an acquaintance, but not really someone you know. So when you start opening up to that, that's why things have to go slow. We always bitch about it. When we're in our awakening, when we're in our ascension, we're going through ascension, we bitch about it because we want it to go faster. I bitch about it because I want it to go faster. Why is it going so slow? Why is it taking so long? I don't know why it takes so long. Why can't we just move on to the next phase? Why can't my gifts come online faster? Why can't I see across dimensions quicker? What am I seeing here? What am I seeing there? There's a reason it chips slowly. Because if it doesn't chip slowly, then there's confusion. And even when it does chip slowly, it's confusion. When you start to hear energy, when you start to feel things you're not used to feeling, when you start to really open up to feeling through your field and not feeling with just your fingers or feeling with just your senses. It's beyond your senses. It's your entire energy field. You can feel everything. You can know when different mail packages are coming in the mail. Like I haven't thought about something in like 2 weeks, and then today I thought about it. I'm like, oh, it's coming in the mail today. I don't have to go check it online. I know it's coming because I thought about it today. So then I thought, I was like, oh, okay, because it's in my awareness now. It's in my field. So that's what starts to happen. But if it goes too quickly, then there's confusion. And there's a lot of times that even though I know I know this person in a different reality. I know this person in 15 different realities. We might be married in a different reality, but in this reality, I don't even know the person. Or even if it's someone I run into and I know them, but not very well. But in another reality, we know each other very well. Sometimes it is confusing, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I when I talk to the person, I'm like, yeah, but they don't know that. It's like I can see all this stuff and they don't see any of that. It doesn't mean that on some level, no, I'm gonna take away the person that thinks they know someone and they don't know them at all in this reality. Let's put that aside for a second. We're going to talk about the situation where I can see, we might be able to see different relationships playing out across space and time, but it hasn't manifested here yet. It hasn't created here yet. That's not the relationship we have. And we might never have that relationship here. It might never be highest aligned here, but in other realities, you can see that. Why do you see it then? Like there's a reason why you see it. There's a zillion reasons why you see it. You see it because you need to be aware that there's a connection there. There's something that might play through energetically. Remember, we never ignore the dream state. It's trying to tell us something, even if it's just showing us, why when you see this person, you almost feel that people call it chemistry. Humans call it chemistry, a spark. It's a familiarity. Now, whether the other person feels it or not, it really doesn't matter. I feel like there is a sense of connection there, a sense of familiarity there, even if they don't have the sight that we might have, or they're just not. And that is not to say they won't have it. Eventually they will. Everyone will eventually be able to see whatever they're supposed to see. But sometimes some people are a little farther along than other people. That's just how it goes. But there has to be that kind of progression. So sometimes it's just kind of telling you, yeah, that's why you feel a connection. It doesn't mean you have to marry that person here or whatever. And that's when you get into a lot of sometimes the twin flame stuff, and it can get very distorted and very confusing for people, right? What are we supposed to do with this connection? And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes you might feel like you're supposed to come together to do something. Sometimes you'll know you're not supposed to. In this reality, in this space, you're not supposed to. But it's still a nod to know that in another reality you do. But when you have that information, sometimes it is confusing, and sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, but they don't know that, okay, so I can't mention that. I can't tell them that because it's a little too much for people. So you kind of got to keep that in mind. But when we go through the other example, which is the one I kind of started with and I've been around the barn on this one already, which I figured I would, but I like to go around the barn when I explain something because I wanted to explain it from as many angles as I can see it. When you're dealing with someone who you don't know at all, and you see a lot of people will see this, I see it in movies, you might have had it happen to you, like I said, this did happen to me once, and they feel like they know you, have a relationship with you, and you don't know them. Now, there's a lot of things going on here, so we're just going to break down a couple, okay? But there's going to be a billion more that you'll probably see that I can't see. A billion more above that, and a zillion more over here. There's always so many different reasons why realities play out. But when ascension can kind of go too fast, and some people signed on for that. They signed on for it to go too fast. They signed on to kind of have this, what people would call in a human realm, looks like a mental breakdown. Maybe they have what someone would call, they have so many personalities going on, because when you're in ascension and embodying in your aspects, you have a lot of different personalities going on. And if you go through the process organically, you start to understand that. You do feel schizophrenic from time to time, but you start to understand what's going on. You're able to be guided to the information you need to help you through different things, to assist you when you're going through certain things. You're able to kind of get through that stuff. But if someone has signed on to go through it quickly to push humanity forward, then they can have what looks like what a human would say looks like a psychotic break or something. Like they feel like they know me and they don't know me. Why do they have this whole life that they think we've had and we haven't had it, but in some reality you have had it. It also brings in giving your power away, standing up for yourself, perhaps for the other person that's going through that reality. It can be bringing up a lot of fear to clear the body, and that's a way that it could come out and it could be cleared, because I know when it happened to me, it brought up a lot of fear. When you have this stuff happen, it does bring up a lot of fear. So there's a zillion reasons why we create these realities, but we can't just look at something and look at it in the human sense anymore. We have to go under that. When you see something in the human realms and say, yeah, is that person having a psychotic break, or are they just going, did they agree to go through ascension quicker to be able to show people what can happen, be able to open people up depending on what they do. Sometimes it goes really off the rails, the voices in your head, it goes off the rails. I mean, my God, when I first started coming online, I was seeing voices in my head, but it's more, I'm hearing my field. I'm reading the field. But to me, it came through as like an audio book, but I understood what was going on because it was slow and I had a lot of different guides to kind of assist me through that part. But if you agree to do it another way, you're going to have a lot of this stuff start kind of caving in on people, and you're going to see more and more and more of it just with all the energies. If anyone tracks, I don't really track it, so I'm going to speak a little bit about something I don't really pay that much attention to, but the energies that hit the earth, it just keeps going higher and higher and higher, and it becomes more unstable and unstable and unstable. And that's why you just see humanity and humans in general, everyone's losing their shit. Everything's kind of looks like it might be blowing up here and there. So go deeper. Go deeper. There was also a part, to just bring it back to where I started from, was also a part in you where, he's talking to a different aspect of himself, and these were more not his conscious aspects in a sense, but he's still, separating off to talk to them. And sometimes we will separate off to talk to different aspects of ourselves, but we have to bring it all back in. And when we're first starting soul embodiment, we're first starting doing that process in the beginning of ascension, we might do that. We might feel ourselves separating off. There was even parts in you where he was blacking out and another aspect would take over. And I kind of look at blacking out a little differently. Like when we go unconscious, we're blacking out. We're blacking out and we're disconnecting from our other conscious selves, our higher guidance. We're kind of blacking out in a bit, and we're going to go live out more of our human stuff. We're going to run around and do that for a while. So we kind of get in these phases where we will kind of go off and do one thing, we'll go off and do something else, and that is in a sense blacking out. We're not really paying attention to what's going on. We're not really looking at how things are playing out around us in the most conscious place. So other aspects are taken over, and I'm going to kind of lump the whole you thing into his human aspects kind of taken over. But when we start looking at TV shows and we start looking at everything we watch, where can we pick it apart? Where can you start to dissect it? Because if you can dissect anything, media is a great place to start. Start dissecting it. What doesn't feel real? A lot of times when we watch the news, it's like it doesn't feel real because technically it's not real. Oh, when someone said something the other day I was going to bring in here, now I can't remember what it was, but it was something like, oh God, it was good too. It was like fear they were illusions that aren't fact-based or something. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't that, but it was something like that. Everything we create isn't real. It doesn't matter how beautiful it is. It doesn't matter how corrupt it is. It's still not real. It's still just our projection, our belief that it's real that makes it real. We can see what we want to see. We can believe what we want to believe. But at the end of the day, we make whatever we want to make real. And how quickly we go through that process, ascension we're never done with ascension. It's just how far are you in the process? I see so many people throwing around words and try to take those words and put them in a human box. And the conversation we've had today is kind of like, we got to kind of blow that box open. We can't talk about a subject and then try to apply it to our human life. I've seen people throw around soul embodiment so much, and are we going to try to pinpoint that or now take that and put it into a human box? The soul embodiment to enhance your human life. It doesn't work like that. Your soul has no interest in a human life. It just doesn't. And your soul embodiment is not going to enhance a human life. So those are two completely separate frequencies and two completely separate concepts. But I see a lot of people trying to kind of bring a lot of things together. And if you haven't gone through soul embodiment, how do you teach someone else soul embodiment? And these are kind of the questions we have to start asking when we start looking at different material and looking at what's being said and looking at how we feel about different things. If you're drawn to the material, if you're drawn to the discussion, they're there for a reason. Listen to it. Take what really hits you with it. But if it doesn't feel right and it doesn't make sense, then it's maybe that it could be the frequencies off in it. It could be it's not where you are. In a sense, where you are in your process to want to hear it. Sometimes, and that goes both ways. If I'm listening to really higher consciousness material, if I am in a place where I'm clearing, I don't want to hear that shit. Because it's just going to make it worse. If I'm having a pity party and I'm clearing something, I don't want to hear someone talk about New Earth, okay? Please. It's the last thing I want to hear about right now because I'm in the middle of clearing. Let me get this shit up and then I can go back to that. But until then, I don't want to hear about any of that shit. So just kind of something I want to throw in at the end here because I was going to do a separate video on that, but I think I can just tie it in here. Look at what's drawn to you. Look at what, even like people would say, why do you watch TV, or do we still do that? Or we try on new makeup, or would we still do human stuff when we're going through ascension? Of course. I mean, I watch every type of TV. Usually I'm drawn to certain things because it shows me something and it opens me up to a concept, and I look at how I can twist that and bring it into a conscious conversation about something. Look at what you're drawn to. Look at what you're not drawn to. And really look at where the source material is kind of coming from too. Because remember, it's not so much what someone's teaching, it's the vibration they're teaching it from. And if they're not teaching it from a vibration that is highest, they're not going to be able to see all aspects of it. That's when we talk about it. I'm always going to be going higher. You're always going to be going higher in your vibration. You'll be able to see more tomorrow than you could see today. We do what we can do in that moment. But if something feels off, try to pinpoint why it feels off. This is kind of the stuff that's the fun stuff, and you sort of play around with, look at all the things that humans code one way or humans code the other way. How can I twist that, untwist it, unravel it, twist it back? Let me pull it apart. Look at what I've done in my life, let me really look at these realities. How did these things get created? Why are they so distorted? And we talk about soul embodiment, and that's embodying in your soul. That's a very sacred process. That's not something you can teach somebody. You can't teach somebody soul embodiment. Can you open people up to understanding what it is so they can go through the process when it's their own time? Can you assist people in understanding that might be something that they're starting to go through and they don't know, and everything starts to go wonky when they start to hear the voices? When they start to hear voices. Then it just becomes, where can you assist without enabling, without promising a lot of different things. So just kind of look and play around and keep practicing the art of intuition.